Just a quick introduction of Half the Sky. We are a leading career platform that focuses on connecting female job seekers to equal opportunity employers. We offer a women's career network, skills training, growing list of career opportunities at companies that care, and also expert career advice to help you make that leap in your career. And as an advocate for diversity in the workplace, our mission has always been to level the playing field for women at work and to help companies build a diverse and robust workforce. All of this to inspire more women to achieve their career aspirations. So please check our platform out. You can do so at www.halftheskyasia.com. And of course, our company joining us today is Avanade. Their vision is to enhance the world through the power of their people and through Microsoft. So they were created in the year 2000 by two industry giants, Microsoft and Accenture. And as a leading Microsoft solutions and services provider, they believe in innovating with purpose, doing what matters for their clients, and making a genuine human impact. And we have been so inspired to see that diversity and inclusion is truly a part of everything they do in the organization. Being a people-first company, they are committed to providing an inclusive workplace where their people feel inspired, confident, and cared for. At Avanade, you can have distinctive and boundaryless experiences, embrace limitless learning, and grow throughout your career. And it brings me great pleasure today to introduce our wonderful panel. We have Carla joining us. She is the Growth Markets Chief Operating Officer. She drives the implementation of Avanade's business strategy and oversees the delivery of strong business performance results across Asia Pacific, Latin America, and the Middle East. Together with her team, Carla ensures the smooth running of Avanade's business and sales operations, and she manages chargeability, capacity growth, deal risk and profitability, as well as investment prioritization and execution in the regions that include Australia, Brazil, Greater China, Japan, Malaysia, Singapore, and UAE. And prior to her current role, Carla was actually the Avanade Growth Markets Modern Workplace Lead, where she has built high-performing and collaborative team that has driven solid double-digit growth in sales and revenue, secured new client wins, designed and delivered innovative solutions, and have recognized by ecosystem partners and industry analysts. And before this, Carla has had a variety of leadership experiences and roles, including Executive General Manager for Cybersecurity at IBM ANZ, Vice President and COO at Avanade Australia, and she has spent 10 years at Telstra. Carla is an inspiring role model and business leader to her team members, the global community in Avanade, and women across the technology industry. And she's also a firm believer in showing kindness and compassion to the people around her, making sure her team feel confident and cared for. Welcome, Carla. Great to have you here today.
Thank you. Thanks for that great introduction. It's really great to be here.
Fantastic. And aside from Carla, we're also going to be having Joanna. So she joined Avanade in 2019 as the company's intelligent industry solutions offering lead for growth markets, which encompasses Asia Pacific, Latin America, the Middle East. In 2020, she launched Avanade's AI and IoT practice in growth markets, and she continues to lead the practice to this very day. Joanna considers herself a global citizen, having lived and worked in over 20 countries across Asia, Europe, and the United States. So in her current role, Joanna brings extensive leadership experience, business and technical expertise to her team, her community of AI and IoT peers, her global network of Avanade colleagues, and a broad set of clients in multiple industries. Currently based in Singapore, Joanna is passionate for innovation and translating technology into solutions that create value and address business needs. Some of her more recent accomplishments will include establishing a digital twin practice at Avanade in 2020, launching the AI and IoT practice in 2020 as well, and she has helped clients build company's vision for the first supermarket of the future and the first store of the future. As an active contributor to the women in STEM communities, she regularly speaks at various regional and international women in technology, cloud, and IoT conferences. Joanna is married with a son and daughter, and she enjoys spending time with her family, as well as practicing vinyasa yoga. And she speaks 3 languages, English, Mandarin, and Dutch, and most recently completed her Global Executive MBA at INSET. Welcome, Joanna. Great to have you here today as well.
Super. Thank you for having me as well.
Yes, wonderful. And thank you as well, both of you panelists, and welcome to our new audience who has joined us today. So we're going to jump straight into the fireside chat. But before that, I will be introducing the 3 parts just for our audience to have a better idea of the chat. So the first part will be an introduction. We're going to get to know our panelists a little bit more. And in part 2, we will discuss what Avanade is doing as an inclusivity leader what policies, benefits, and initiatives they are offering in their organization. And part three, we'll have leadership gems, career tips from our seasoned industry experts, and how to drive meaningful change as a woman in the workplace through embracing equity. So without further ado, let's get started with a fireside chat. So panelists, I'm so excited to get to know you better today, and I'm sure the audience also can't wait to learn from you. So Carla, Joanna, please introduce yourselves and tell us a bit more about what you do at Avanade, aside from everything I've just said. Carla, you want to go first?
Perfect. Yeah, happy to kick off. Thank you again, Bianca and Half the Sky, for having both of us. Really excited to be spending some time with you. So, by way of introduction, yes, my name's Carla Ramchand, and I'm currently the Chief Operating Officer for Avanade in growth markets. I often get asked that question, what does a COO actually do? So maybe we should start there, although you had a bit of an insight in that intro, but it is a great question because the remit of this role is very broad, and a role that I've really loved in my career because it gives you this great vantage point across the whole business. So in terms of day-to-day, I get the opportunity to work very closely with our leadership team on the growth and strategy of our various businesses in the 8 countries that fit within growth markets. So overseeing business performance, the operating model, and also our workforce to ensure that we've got the right amount of talent in the right places with the right skills to deliver on our client projects. So we've got just over 4,000 employees across growth markets right now, and that's growing exponentially every year. But diversity of that workforce is one critical dimension that we see is really pivotal to our success, and one, dimension that we actively manage. Aside from being COO, I also have a additional hat that I wear that's very close to my heart. I'm part of our inclusion and diversity program. I am the executive sponsor within Avanade growth markets for our senior female talent. So super passionate about ways that we can attract more senior females into Avanade, as well as thinking about how do we cultivate an amazing experience for that community once they join us. So that's a little bit more about me, and really looking forward to this discussion.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Carla. Joanna?
So yes, thanks for having me. My name is Joanna, and I lead up the AI and IoT solution area for growth markets. So one of the things which I do on a regular basis is I speak to a lot of our clients, and also to understand what are the different pain points, especially in the industry and in the technology space where things are changing so fast. For example, almost every week, Microsoft is releasing a new press release on OpenAI. And our clients themselves, are coming to me and asking, so Joanna, what's the latest? Is this important for me? How can I use this in my daily life? What does it mean to my company? What does it mean to my company today? And how about, 5 years down the road? And I think technology has been changing, so dramatically that a lot of us, if we just plug away and just stay away from, our computer screens for even a month and we come back, we can see so much change. So for me, I think one of the key goals is for me to lead the team into what could this be and what this actually means for our client. So that's more or less what I do on a day-to-day basis. On another note, I am, of course, a woman in technology and also a senior woman in technology. And to be very honest with everyone, this is an area which actually has gotten quite a lot of attention in the coming years. When I was growing up 20 years ago, it wasn't even talked about at all. So I'm very happy to have organizations like Avanade, like Half the Sky, also speaking about this. And for me, getting more women into the space, into STEM, into technology is very high on my agenda and priority. I talk about it very regularly in events. I have mentees, whether in and out of the organization. And I also, am actively volunteering in outside events as well to actually promote this, to get this to the next level.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Joanna. And panelists, today's topic as we've seen, is about the official International Women's Day theme, Embrace Equity. And, we're going to zone into Avanade's take on the theme, especially coming from female employees such as yourself, who are true equity champions and such a powerful voice that is shaping the future of work. So what does equity mean to you as a female leader, and how have you seen it positively impact your role? Joanna, you want to go first?
Sure, definitely. For me, equity is, I think, in its simplest form, being equal, and also to disregard a lot of unconscious biases at the door. What do I mean about that? Like, for example, as I started my career in Europe, actually, and I was one of the very few Asian women in the team and in the room for multiple meetings. So unfortunately enough, a lot of times when people actually enter the room and understand this was 20 years ago in my 20s, people actually thought that I was the secretary or even the person serving coffee. So things have really changed tremendously since then. And I think it's also very important. And why do I say this? It's because leadership does not really have a specific face. If you really want to take a look at it, like leaders come in, all sorts of diversity. And I think this is super key. So for me, like embracing equity, and I definitely am very happy to be part of Avanade, which actually have like KPIs to champion this, is that, people should be valued for what they bring to the table, regardless of how they look, regardless of their specific background. And for me, I think this is like really important, because if you have like people of the same type together, you have this what we call groupthink. And it's always there. We do not see the different perspectives and variants to, a problem. So I really enjoy having like super diverse teams, because I believe that everyone brings a part of themselves and their background to the table for discussions.
Well said. Thanks so much, Joanna. Carla?
Yeah, we've really taken this opportunity to ask our teams to reflect on what Embrace Equity means and what it means to be committed to the theme, by really starting with understanding what it means, recognizing that equity and equality are actually two quite different things, and unpacking that a little bit. Equality means everyone's given the same resources or opportunities. But equity, on the other hand, recognizes that each of us is starting from a different starting point, different place, and needs different things to reach an equal outcome. Of course, with that focus on equity, you can eventually lead to equality. So just recognizing that we've all got, we need to have an equal starting point to truly achieve equality, and we're not quite there yet. So for us at Avanade, we're really committed to being on that journey towards equality by first focusing on equity. I mean, in terms of the positive impact, in terms of my role, like Joanna, I've seen a huge shift from when I first started my career to now. But for me, I feel like I've got equal access to opportunities. I've had some really fantastic roles and opportunities within my current organisation, equal pay, and also really strong support network, including many male and female role models in senior exec positions. For me, that also have families, so such as myself. So helping me to support both getting that balance right in my role at work, as well as the support I need to be a role as a mother outside of work as well.
Absolutely. And panelists, can you share any personal experiences that you've had as leaders that you would say highlight the importance of having gender equity in the workplace, and how have these experiences impacted your own career trajectory?
Yeah, I think if I look back, not at Avanade, probably earlier in my career, I had to overcome kind of a fear of speaking up or sharing my point of view first when I was the only woman in the discussion. Yeah. I started out in the IT industry, very male-dominated workplace. And at that time, I was not only the only female, but I was probably the youngest by a large margin. And I also came from not your typical IT background. So there are a few things that for me were perceived barriers or perceived differences when I was in that workplace. But through, I guess, key to helping me overcome some of those barriers or feelings of not belonging were some really fantastic senior male and female mentors, role models, and also sponsors were a big part of my journey that really took the time to notice that struggle I was having and then care enough to look for ways to increase my comfort level and confidence in those types of situations, reinforce that my contribution was valued, and gave me the confidence to speak earlier, put my hand up earlier in group discussions, and often would share, often invite me to share my point of view. And I guess over time, I no longer needed that prompt. And now I'm in a position where it's the reverse. I've been held back. But yeah, that was probably one of the challenges I had to overcome early on in my career.
Yeah, it's so inspiring to hear that from you because, at Half the Sky, we ourselves really advocate for mentorship and sponsorship. And we've heard so many other female leaders like yourself say that it's really important and it really helps kind of catapult you forward and give you that confidence that you need.
Absolutely.
Yeah, amazing. So, Joanna?
As I reflect, and I definitely resonate with Carla. I think very early on in my career, I was quiet. I was, just in that meeting. And for me, it was like, I think it came from many things, right? I was typically also the only, for example, Singaporean woman in the room many times. And everyone else was, I always thought of everyone else as, oh, they have like good education, they have much more experience, they know so much more than me. And I think my aha moment, this light bulb moment which came to my head was when one of the managers which I had came to me and said, Joanna, why aren't you talking? And I was like, yeah, I'm just afraid of saying something stupid. And she actually said, like, Joanna, you are in this meeting for a reason. We actually value you enough to put you in that meeting where you are with, very senior executives of the organization. This was really my aha moment because for me, it was like, oh, that is right. Else, why would I be even in that meeting? I would just be, somewhere else, taking notes or waiting for instructions to be given to me. And I think, like as I reflect back, in my career and to where I am right now, I like to put this into practice also because sometimes, when I'm in meetings like right now and I am possibly the most senior person in the room, I see the times where I do notice that Joanna of 20 years back sitting in a corner, not saying anything, but this doesn't mean that she or even he knows nothing. It could be that he's just not speaking up for any particular reason. So I really take it for myself to question and go around the room. And I think one important thing is also to truly listen rather than just, oh, okay, let's just pay lip service or just say okay, let's skip over this person's opinion. So for me, it always draws back to the time where I was much junior, but I always take all these lessons for myself and how I also lead teams today to make sure that every opinion is actually counted. Else, why bother being in that room in the first place?
I love that message. Thank you so much, Joanna. All right, so panelists, do what matters is a very core approach and very much a theme at Avanade. So in what ways would you say that Avanade is doing what matters to promote and enable embrace equity? Now that we're in 2023, March, we had the theme of embrace equity everywhere. So what would you say Avanade is doing to promote and enable that through do what matters?
I think it's really important to be part of a company which recognizes that this is important and also to put KPIs on this. Why do I say that? When I reflect the whole of March, which is International Women's Day, there is a lot of people who talk about it. But what I feel really matters is that you walk the talk. And I say I'm lucky because being part of Avanade, we truly have KPIs, which, for example, we talk about pay equity. Is the dollar for a male equals to 77 cents for a female, for example? The answer is well, Avanade has actually reached pay equity.
Mm.
Then the second thing is, of course, hiring of women. Is there like KPIs in place to ensure that, we really drive to get females in all levels of the organization? And I would say the answer is yes. And for me, these two are very high on my list on what companies can do. It's very easy to, have an event or to come together to just talk about it. But when you see the senior leadership in an organization put actual KPIs, I think that's where you realize that this is a company which really wants to, like I said, do what matters in that case.
Yeah, I echo Joanna's comments insofar as walking the talk. So at Avanade, we've got equitable policies in place, ensuring that everyone in our organisation, the diverse workforce, gets their different needs met. And you heard some of the numbers to back that up. Last year, we achieved 100% gender pay equity globally. And we also put additional focus around our hiring practices, and we had 40% of our new hires for women coming into our organisation last year. We're also committed to that early phase of talent, early development of talent at the early career stages. We've got a global STEM scholarship program. This is a partnership with 16 universities across the world to award more than 200 scholarships to female STEM students. I was actually fortunate enough to visit one of these universities in Japan that we partner with late last year and got to meet some of the STEM scholars. And you can just see the difference that this investment makes, and also sharing our journeys with those individuals as well. There's, of course, other things that we do, for example, focus on flexible working arrangements. Gender-neutral paid parental leave is another one. And a big emphasis on mentorship, skill building through programs like Avanade's leadership program for women. And we also just generally have this emphasis on community and the importance of allyship within the organisation, again, to really cultivate that positive experience and those connections, our females within the organisation.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. And it really does pay off, all the support you're giving to young talent and women. And in the end, you could see that people are happy to work at Avanade and they're really growing and really thriving. All right. So panelists, equity in the workplace is all about recognizing the diverse needs of your employees. Carla has mentioned this previously, and providing them with adequate support they need, realizing that not everyone is the same and some people need more support than others. But many times, we hear about women, especially in Asia, where, they're less outspoken. They tend to avoid asking for help and they avoid the topic completely. So I myself have heard several stories of, women hiding their disability or their pregnancy due to the fear of being laid off or the fear the organization can't handle their needs, so to speak. So how does Avanade encourage, female employees to speak up and to speak out to their management on their special needs and requirements? And at the same time, how does management identify the women who need more specialized assistance if they don't speak up?
Okay, I think this question is very apt for me because I came back from maternity leave only 7 months ago, 6 months ago actually. So I have 11-month-old at home. And, a lot of times when women come back from maternity leave, the world has changed. The working world has changed, literally. So I have a group of trusted women leaders, and I asked them, and they actually said, Joanna, everything has changed now that you have come back. It's like taking on a new job because you were not around for that 6 months, and also before that because you were preparing to go on maternity leave. So I think I recognize this very well in any organization, but I definitely say that at Avanade, there's a few things which I would say it's very positive. I think one of the key things is, coming back and reintegrating into the workplace. You actually feel that people welcome you. People are still taking your thoughts into account, even though you have to potentially ramp up again to be where you are. And I think also, taking that into account, like how does Avanade support all this? Like a lot of times when we actually want to go on maternity leave, it's like shh, let's keep quiet about this event, right? Because, what will my manager say? I'm not around for 6 months. I think it's a very tricky topic, but I always encourage people to speak out and speak early because people need to plan, even leaders need to plan. And if you're not there for maternity leave, let's say it's like 6 months, we need to like figure out in terms of contingency, etc., etc. So I always recommend like people, please say like women who ask me how, you went for maternity leave, how did that work? I said, you just got to say like super early, 4 months, 5 months in, to tell your manager that you are going to be away. Even though I understand that it may be a very tricky topic, but I believe that you definitely need to speak out and also to let people know that you will not be there. It's actually good for the overall piece rather than just let's hide it and then surprise, I'm going for maternity leave. That's just not going to work out, to be honest with you. Yeah. So I think that's one thing. I think the second thing is also on reintegrating back. When I came back from maternity leave, because everything has changed, I started speaking around and I found like so much different opportunities, mainly because, when you actually come back, you view things with a different lens. I always say, I became a mom of one to a mom of two. What does that really mean? It meant that I needed to be even more efficient than before. I needed to, look out for different opportunities. I need to manage my time to the best of my ability because, there's more little kids who want my attention. And on top of that, to also drive my business as well as my career in what I do during today. So for me, I think it's let's bring your full authentic self to the table and also to, make yourself known. And if you are too afraid, for example, I would definitely say, speak to someone who has been there. So as I came back, I actually, had other women who were going on maternity leave who actually reached out to me and said like, Joanna, I saw your post on LinkedIn. I know you just came back from maternity leave. How do you handle this? It's like, I do not see anyone who is in my position right now. So I like to always share my stories. Sometimes to influence many people, you just have to influence one person or at least, be a mentor to one or two people and then you pay it forward. And that's my belief.
Yeah, I love that community factor as well. And, we do have a lot of audience in Half the Sky who are mothers or expecting as well. So it's so great. It's so great for them to hear from you.
I think just in terms of speaking up, we're really prioritizing a culture where we talk a lot about every voice being heard and cultivating an environment where everyone feels safe and confident to speak up without kind of the fears that Joanna just mentioned. The way we help enable this at Avanade, regardless of kind of job title, whether you're a leadership position or not, we're guided by a set of principles and habits. And a couple of examples might be, we talk about empowering every voice or encourage boldness. And these principles and habits are embedded in our ways of working, in our meetings, and we talk about them. So they're really visible and front of mind, which I think really helps. So what does that kind of, when we boil that down, what does that kind of look like in terms of behaviours? So we demonstrate and encourage, include, in meetings, acknowledging and valuing different perspectives in all of those meetings, and inviting people to contribute, just the way that, I mentioned was a real game changer for me early on in the career. It's something that we encourage in all of our interactions and meetings. And in terms of, I think the second part of your question was just around identifying women who might need more support but are uncomfortable speaking up. There's lots of various channels for people to choose from, depending on their comfort level. Each person's assigned a career advisor. We've got buddies, we've got mentors and support networks, such as the Women's Employees Network you mentioned earlier, and also Avanade Women's Circle. So lots of different ways that people can reach out for support, depending on what suits their own kind of needs. And we've also got training and learning opportunities for women to receive, could be executive coaching, leadership development, and programs that are really designed to empower and build confidence, in our teams as well. But those principles and habits that we have, making those really visible, have been a real game changer in terms of how we communicate with each other and operate, and really supporting the culture that we're building at Avanade.
I love that. I love how there's different channels, and depending on your comfort level, you can go, any employee resource group.
Direction.
Yeah. I love that. All right. So we're down to a few last questions. So this one's for Carla. So Carla, with an executive leadership role that you have, being COO of growth markets, what advice could you give to young prospective leaders on leading with compassion and authenticity that would make a true impact?
Yeah, I think for authenticity, similar to my earlier comment, I'd really encourage prospective leaders to speak openly about your journey. It's okay to be vulnerable, share some of those challenges that you've had. We've all had them at various points of our career. And I think it can be really powerful for others to hear how you've overcome those. And that's one way that I think you can really help others open up, make those connections, find their own voice, to see that they're not alone with those challenges. You find there's many others that have had the same experience. And then secondly, I'd say probably a skill underestimated and often overlooked is practicing active listening. I think Joanna mentioned that earlier as well. So really taking the time to be present with people that you're talking to, what the person's saying, but also those non-verbal cues, the body language that might say that someone is having a challenge, and gives you a real indication of, their mental state, their confidence level at any point in time. And I think it's a really key skill to develop your empathy to become a more effective leader. And for me, I think this is an important one that I've had to exercise, particularly when you're working with different cultures. So my big aha moment was when I moved from working purely in an Australian-based role, so I'm based in Australia, to working across different countries in growth markets. So I had to kind of process that all of, my upbringing and culture and societal norms, are quite different. And obviously to those that I might be working with on a day-to-day basis. So, what that tells me is that, and what I've learned is that some women will obviously need more encouragement than perhaps I initially anticipated. So my experience, I feel like I've got equal access to pay and opportunities and so forth, but it doesn't necessarily translate to everyone's experience at any point in time. So just raising that awareness, and I think active listening, seeking to understand where people are coming from is a really great skill and good place to start.
Love the tips. Thank you so much, Carla. And now for my question for Joanna. Joanna, as an AI and IoT offering lead, how do you see the future of women in tech evolving? And what advice can you give to women with the same backgrounds in technology on staying relevant and competitive in an ever-changing world of tech?
Okay, thank you for the question. I get this very often. I think one of the key things, whether it's a woman or a man, actually, is to always keep yourself updated. I read a lot in the evenings when my kids have gone to sleep. I keep myself updated with blogs, with Microsoft certifications, with reading about what's new, what's next, and what's to come. I think it's really important because everything which I learned in university 20 years ago, it's totally irrelevant today. And I think one of the key things which we need to always tell ourselves is to keep curious, to stay curious, to keep asking questions, to always look at things from a point where you don't know. What I do find women do is, however, they like to read a lot and they like to keep the information to themselves. So I think one of the key things as well is, number one is to keep ourselves updated. Number two is also to talk about it. Because like a lot of times, and I'm still reflecting from times when I started off my career, I always thought that everyone knew better than me. But when I was so wrong, because I was the person who was reading up everything to the tiniest detail, but I wasn't talking about it. So I think one thing which I definitely need to say to women out there is maybe you read a very interesting article, maybe you have learned something new, whether it's the latest technology, like for example OpenAI, ChatGPT, you talk about it. And I think it's really important because right now it's I feel that a lot of information gets read, but then if you just read it and keep it to yourself but do not talk about it, or even like share an article, for example, then it actually stays there. So for me, when I talk about women who want to enhance and grow in their career in STEM, I say like, I think it's very important that you also form opinions on what you read and learn, because having these opinions will get you to the next level. And you want people to recognize you for what you bring to the table. And yeah, that's small business advice.
I love that. It's a very powerful piece of advice as well, because a lot of people don't think about it. A lot of us ladies just, read our articles and our books, but then it would go much further and we can actually influence other people and show other people, our passion when we talk about it. All right. So final question for our panelists. So as female leaders in growth markets, it's very clear that you both have extremely global experiences and backgrounds, having touch points in APAC, Latin America, Middle East, and so on. So it's very clear that different countries require different strategies. But when it comes to growing your team, what would you say is that common denominator that's needed to ensure an inclusive workplace that welcomes women with diverse backgrounds and diverse needs? Carla?
I think recognizing inclusion and diversity is actually everyone's responsibility. So it's not just the role of a team within a HR department. It needs to be pervasive throughout the organisation. And I think that's why embedding it in our principles and habits and making it everyone's responsibility has been a really effective way of driving change within our own culture. If you look at the research, it shows the most important things you can do to attract, retain and advance female talent. Again, back to the robust policy and processes in place that are inclusive and provide that equitable work environment. We talked about the gender neutral paid parental leave is critical, making sure that people have flexible work options, recognising that to do great work, people need that flexibility to see what suits their own environment and needs. And I think we've touched a little bit on sponsorship. Again, important to really understand the definition, how that's different to being a mentor, that it's more than mentorship. It's that person that's going to advocate for you when you're not in the room. They're going to use their own reputation, their own network as a leader to really enable you to succeed in an important opportunity in your own career. And I think really important as well to be clear with sponsors what expectations are of them. What does it actually mean to be a sponsor? Don't assume that people know the role that they could possibly play to enable others those opportunities. So they're the key things that I would call out.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Carla. Joanna?
I think I would like to add a little bit on to what Carla has mentioned. Like there are two kinds of roles out there, right? There are mentors, which mentor you on what to do, whether it's situational or task-based or technical whatsoever. And there are sponsors who talk about you. Basically what's not being said when you are in the room, but when you are not in that room. So what's said behind your back when you actually leave the room. And I think both is equally important, but the importance also changes when you actually go up the organization. So for me, it's like, typically like entry level, middle women, they need more mentors. But as you go up for more senior leadership roles, they need more sponsors. So I feel that like, frameworks, tools need to be in place. Also, in whether it's your organization or whether it's in Avanade, sometimes there are tools in place, but you also need to be proactive. Like, for example, just last week, I had another a lady in Avanade reach out to me and said, Joanna, I heard about this, that, can you be my mentor? And I said, of course. And she said, are you very busy? I said, no, I mean, I am busy, but I will create the time for you. So I think it's very important as well, because sometimes you think, she might be busy, or she's very senior, she might not want to talk to me. My experience is, so far, maybe I'm lucky, but so far, wherever I reached out to a senior leader in Avanade, they've always said, yes, I will mentor you, or yes, I'll be your sponsor.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much, Joanna. And I think that's all the questions that I had today. So again, thank you, panelists, for your wonderful sharing. I've learned so much from you in this past 30, 40 minutes, and I'm sure it's been the same for our audience. So let's move on now to the Q&A session. So we've had, before we address any live questions from the audience, and also audience, I'll give you time to submit any of your questions that you have to Joanna and Carla right in the chat box. Before that, we have some questions that are actually sent from our audience members during the registration. So let's start with those. So I have this question for Carla, and it's, how have you seen female leadership evolve over your years of experience working in the tech industry? I think this has been somewhat addressed, but Carla, if you have anything else to add, go ahead.
Yeah, I think over the years, certainly since I started my career, female leadership has become increasingly visible. Through that time, we've got more women in leadership roles who in turn then can advocate and champion for gender equity. We're seeing better representation, so we're making progress, but I think long-lasting change requires deliberate, consistent action. So it's just something that we have to remain focused on. It's we're certainly not there yet. And just confidence level, I think we're seeing more as we talk about it more. We're seeing confidence levels increases. Women are more confident about what they can contribute, be bold, seizing opportunities, putting their hand up for different roles, more challenging projects. We've got lots of inspiring role models. I know here at Avanade, we've got predominantly female global leadership team, which is quite unique. So even within Avanade, we've got lots of inspirational leaders to look up to, and I think role modeling is a huge part of it. So making progress, but still lots more to do.
Yeah, there's a lot, there's a lot that has been done, but there's still so much there's left to do. All right, so another question I have is for Joanna. So Joanna, what is your advice on upskilling in this competitive market, especially in tech companies like Avanade?
I think it should be a key priority, to be very honest. So like, technology is changing so often and so quickly, that what is hip and happening today may not be hip and happening like 4 months down the road. So I think for me, like, a lot of times, if you just stay at one point, you can get left behind. So my advice is, if your company offers trainings, whether it's optional, certifications, even if it's optional, like, be active in focusing on getting it done, and to also like not wait till people say, hey, why don't you do this? I think one of the things people like to do is busy yourself, like keep like every single part of the day occupied. But I always advise people, like, let's keep maybe 10% of your time per week focusing on getting yourself to the next level. So block the time in your agenda, literally, and say, this is the time I spend to learn about, this specific topic, whether it's computer vision or AI or open AI or something along those lines. And that's my little bits of advice.
Thank you so much, Joanna. That's been really helpful. So I have some questions from the live audience. So the first one I got, I think this would be related to what Carla was saying a while ago, and it's, how can I boost confidence at work? Interesting question.
I think having a strong building, I think the starting point for me is always building that strong support network. So I might share a little bit about how I went about it and see if that helps. So I think early on in my career, I kind of back to the careful planning and investing the time to put the right foundations in place. I had mentors inside and outside the organization. Over time, I had business sponsors, and even today, I still have an executive coach that I work with. So for me, having that support network has been really helpful for me build that confidence over time in certain situations, whether that be transitioning into a new role. Having an external sounding board to help you reassess your priorities, put goals in place, things that you want to work on, and really help you plan out your career can be one way. I think they say a problem shared is a problem halved. So talk to people about, if you've got a challenge with your confidence, is it in a certain situation? Do they have strategies to help you with that? Are they also present? Could they play a role in supporting you in that particular situation? But yeah, I would definitely talk to someone about the particular challenge that you might be facing. And as I said, my own example around confidence in speaking out early, I kind of worked through that with the help of some people that I trusted. And it doesn't have to be someone within the organization. Practicing speaking out more often, asking more questions, being curious also builds that confidence over time. But yeah, that would be my suggestion.
Thank you so much, Carla. Great insights. And to Marie, I hope that answered your question. All right. So I have another one for Carla. We've talked a lot about this. It's about mentorship and role models, right? But these questions always come up in our events. So, you talked about having mentors and role models and sponsors there for you in your career growth. But I guess, how different do you think it would have been if you didn't have them?
Oh, I think it's a critical success factor, and why I put so much thought into planning that support network. And it will change over time, and depending on the situation, you may have people that stick with you throughout your career, or there might be people that you bring in and out of your network, depending on what's going on for you. But role models, mentors, sponsors, they're all really critical parts of helping you get that visibility within your organization, making sure that you're putting your hand up when you need to. They remove your blind spots, things that maybe you're not seeing that could be barriers to you getting to that next level. So it's been super important in my career, and I think for me it's really great to have those sounding boards. It gives me that clarity of thinking that I personally need if I can talk through challenges, situations with someone else, rather than it swirling around in my head.
Amazing. And I love what you said about the blind spots, because we won't know them ourselves. We can only know if other people tell us. So I guess that's what a mentor is really for.
And it also gets you
into
the rhythm of really seeking feedback on a regular basis that you can then discuss with that support network in more detail and put plans in place to address them.
Absolutely. All right. So I'm conscious of time. I think we just have one last question. That's for Joanna. Joanna, you already talked a little bit about this one. So what advice would you give to pregnant women in the workplace who would rather not share their pregnancy with their superior or their manager?
Okay, this is really a loaded question, and I can definitely say why. Because despite all the years of progress, it's really a very sensitive topic. Like I have 2 kids myself, and they are very young. I have a 4-year-old and a 0-year-old. And each time I got pregnant, I always thought, when was the best time for me to actually tell my manager this? And please understand that regardless whether it's your first child or your 5th child, this always remains a very sensitive topic. But my advice is to really flag this to your manager, because this requires planning on everyone's part. And also, I think, luckily for the laws, I would say, in Singapore, it's also important because there will not be any questions regarding any legality, for example, just because you're pregnant. They still have to view you as equal and to ensure that, you will be given like paid maternity leave, etc., etc. So for me, my quick advice is that always flag it, even though it's sensitive. Understand that you're not the only person who feels that way. Everyone who has been pregnant and telling their manager that also feels that way at any point in time, because it's a special time, right? It's family time. It's different. But how you are treated, I think what's really important is how you feel that you are treated during your pregnancy and this personal piece of your life. If you feel that you're valued during this, and when you come back to work, you can actually give much more. I think a lot of employers just think of this very short term, but I think strategically, right? Imagine pregnancy is only 5 months of a potential full career of someone's career at your company. So for me, I think it's always good to flag, but also like try to also position it to your manager's point of view, because he's like thinking, this 6 months I don't have anyone, what should I do? Support him or support her in solving that maybe manpower crunch or manpower issue, and give solutions also to what potentially he or she may face if there is no one in that specific spot for, I think, 5-6 months. That's at least my advice.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Joanna. And somebody in the audience was even saying, I had a male colleague in my past company who calls maternity leave as going on a long holiday. So sad. Unfortunately, well, it's the reality, but it definitely shouldn't be happening.
No, it definitely should not be happening. I'm actually very passionate about speaking about this because a lot of people think that it's a long holiday. It's not. A lot of the heavy lifting of the kids of maternity leave is done by mother, the mommy. And, for me, it's like I am an employee, but I'm also a mother. And actually, like the advantages and ability to multitask, for example, ability to ensure that each hour of the day is used to the best of my ability, all comes from the fact that, I became, someone like a mom, right?
Yeah.
Have to manage so much time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really happens, and it's not a long holiday, and you really have to plan it out and make sure that you're getting the most out of it as well, and of course spending enough time with your newborn. All right, so I think that's all the time we have left, unfortunately, for Q&A session. Now we have as well our Half the Sky community pages. Of course, you guys all know the diversity employers, including Avanade, are constantly hiring on Half the Sky platform, and they are committed as ever to empowering women to thrive within their organizations. So they offer flexible working arrangements, equal pay initiatives, many more initiatives as well, especially the ones that you've heard today from our panelists at Avanade. And their jobs are listed on our platform, so you can check them out at halftheskyasia.com. And we have a lot of other resources to share with you as well on our platform. So you will be receiving exclusive event invites if you sign up, for example, to this one. You'll also get job alerts, thought leadership content, and many, many more. Again, it's completely free. And as well, don't forget to give us a follow on our social media. QR codes are up on the screen. So if you stay tuned to our events page on halftheskyasia.com, you'll see more events coming up next month and in the coming months. And once again, I want to give huge thank you to our panel today, Carla and Joanna, and of course to the Avanade team and our wonderful audience. Thank you guys. Valerie, Claire, I could see you guys in the chat box. Thank you so much for joining us today. So stay safe, everyone, and I hope to see you in our next events.